The first story. My wife cheated on me with my best friend. The real story.
So, my 26F wife caller M cheated on me, 27M, with a friend of mine, 27M, call him J for the story's sake. A bit of backstory. We met when I was 22 at another friend's wedding. She was a good friend of the bride and I the groom, and they sat us at that table so we would get together. When I first seen her, I was completely taken back by how beautiful she was, and when she sat down and we began to talk, we found out we had a lot of things in common. We clicked instantly. We talked for a while, ate the dinner and took to the dance floor. We danced and drank through the night. We ended up kissing in the middle of the dance floor, and when we pulled away, our friends, the bride and groom, came up to us and asked what was up between us. They were really excited to play matchmaker. We just shrugged it off and carried on with our night. We left not exchanging numbers, but about a week later I got a text from her asking me out. Bride gave her my number. I of course said yes, and it turned into a relationship. The relationship was great. Other than small arguments, we never really fought, and it was never anything really serious. I eventually asked her to marry me about 2 years into us dating, and we were married less than a year later. We were married for a little more than a year when it all came crashing down on me. Just before our first anniversary, there were little things that were irritating me. She became more guarded of her phone, girls' nights became more frequent, and our sex life was almost non-existent. I had brought this up on multiple occasions but was brushed off, and that I'm letting my insecurities get to me. She would continue go on as if what I felt and tried to communicate didn't matter to her, so I became colder and colder. I stopped giving her a goodbye kiss as I leave for work, and unless it was something important, we hardly spoke. One night while she slept, I took her phone and laptop and skimmed through her texts, emails and messenger apps and found nothing. And from reading stories on here, I checked her car. I grabbed her keys and looked in her car and found a second phone. I knew in that instant what was going on, but I wanted all the evidence for when I call her out. I didn't want her to say something like it had only happened once or anything stupid like that. I looked through the phone and found only one number. I read through every message. I connected the phone to my computer and printed out every message and every photo and spent the night researching divorce lawyers. I spent hours of my day in my at-home office reading bios of lawyers and found one that I liked and emailed him, but as it was a Saturday, he wasn't in the office. I then wanted to know who the guy was, so I grabbed my phone, typed the number I wanted to call and pretend I'm Spectrum, because who doesn't have Spectrum, but Jay's contact popped up. It took me a minute to put two and two together, but when I did, I blew up. I was yelling and cursing in my office, and my wife opened the door to check on me, but when I see her, I told her to get the F out. She closed the door and went to our room. I had never cursed at my wife or raised my voice above a normal volume. All of day I never left my office. I was just silently raging, just glaring at the wall. I called one of my friends, groom from the wedding, and tell him I need to go for a drink and asks if he'll come with me. He must have heard something in my voice because he asked if I was okay. I told him I wasn't and I really need to drink. So, without word, I took all the printouts and left to go to the bar. I arrived first, ordered 4 shots of Jack and a beer. I was on my last shot when my friend, call him T, arrived and asked what's going on. I told him straight out M's cheating. He gave me sympathy and I asked if he wanted to know with who and told him it was Jay. He became visibly irritated. He was the one that introduced me to Jay, and all he could say was I'm sorry over and over. Jay and I were never super close. We wouldn't ask one another to hang out, but if we see each other at a get-together we were friendly. I told T don't mention this to anyone as I had just found out, and I haven't even spoken to M or a lawyer yet. I asked him not to tell his wife, and if she asked what was wrong with me to say I'm having problems at work. He agreed. We drank and talked for most of the night, then I called an Uber and went home around 3 a.m. It was the first time I looked at my phone since I called T, and there was missed calls, a bunch of texts, all from M asking me where I was, when I'd be home, and if I was okay. I got home and she was asleep on the couch. I just walked up to our bedroom and went to sleep. I woke up with her in the bed, so I got dressed and left the house. I went to go pick up my car and go to my office and buried myself in work for the day and went back home around 10 p.m. To my surprise, my wife was there to greet me. and she told me she had made me dinner. She asked if I wanted her to heat it up. I told her no and went to bed. She followed soon after asking what's been wrong with me. I told her to leave me alone and that I wanted to sleep. She kept pestering me. Eventually I snapped and yelled, "Stop, I am trying to sleep, go away." The next morning, I received an email from the lawyer asking to meet later in the day, and I confirmed and got ready for my day. I went downstairs to leave, and Em had made breakfast asking to talk. I made a small plate and sat down. She started by saying I've been acting different and going on and on about how I changed, and she wants to know why. I told her work has been stressful and soon it would be all over. I finished up and told her I've got to go. I went to my office and counted down the minutes to go meet the lawyer. When I left, I told my assistant I'm going out to lunch with a client. My wife would call my work sometimes, and left. The meeting with the lawyer went well, and I handed over all I had gathered on her, and the lawyer had told me, "Well, I'm sorry for all that's going on, but I'm happy you gathered all this information. You see, we live in an at-fault state, so your wife has no claim on most of your money." I told him I didn't even think about that. I was just thinking I've got to divorce her as soon as possible. He asked to keep the evidence, but I told him I'd prefer you to just make copies, as I haven't told my wife I knew yet and I don't want to hear her excuses. He agreed and had his assistant make copies. I asked when she will be served with papers. He told me about 2 weeks. I then thanked him and left. I went home to confront my wife. When I arrived, she wasn't home, so I called her. No answer. Called again, no answer. I texted her, "I don't give a F if you're writing J right now, get home, we need to talk." Lo and behold, she calls me not a minute later asking what I was talking about. All I told her was get home now. She arrives about 15 minutes later and I said to her, "Wow, look at that, 15 minutes, that's about the same distance between here and Jay's, isn't it?" She looked at me dumbfounded. I gave her a minute to gather herself, but she was just looking at me and I said, "Well, nothing to say." She tried to deny and gaslight me and I let her continue on. She worked herself up and started to insult me. I slammed my fist on the table to shut her up and pulled out the evidence at first and showed it from the side and said, "Look at this mountain of things I gathered on you." Then I showed her each printout at a time. She then tells me to stop and started to cry. She tried to apologize and tells me she loved me. I said, "Honey, what happened to that energy you had before? You were so adamant on degrading and insulting me just a minute ago." She tried to hug me and tell me how sorry she is. I put my hand out and told her, "Don't touch me." She says, "Well, go to the bedroom and do whatever I like." I looked her deep in her eyes and told her, "Sweetheart, I will never touch you again. Do you want to know who else has these photos and messages? My lawyer. I'm divorcing you now. Get a bag, gather your clothes and get the F out of my house." That was 3 days ago, and I haven't heard from her. I'm sorry about how long this is and if there are any spelling errors. I'm curious to those have been where I'm at. What can I expect from here? Thank you for reading.
Now listen to the second story. I think my soon-to-be ex-wife had an emotional affair.
So, this will be a long post. We, 31M, 34F, are divorcing with my soon-to-be ex-wife, STBXW. We were together for 9 years. Met at university. She was drawn to me. I was the usual, men don't pick up signals, and took for me 2 months to realize her signals, until I made a move. Things progressed very fast. In 3 months we moved in together in the dorm. Half year we told each other we love each other. Fuck, I'm tearing up. Then she was kicked out from the dorm, and she moved back to her mother's place, which was close to our workplace. Because we started working at the same company, no common work, just same company, and her mother lived close. After a while we agreed that I moved in together with them. Big mistake. Anyways, after 1.5 years we moved to our own apartment, rented, and lived there for 5 years. It was too long there as well, because it was small. Our joint life was still progressing pretty well. In our 2nd year together we got a cat, then after 5 years I proposed to her. We were planning on buying a house and starting a family, but once it turned out our finances were not good enough, we changed plans. Moving abroad, to a far better country. After 7 years together we got married, and within a month we moved abroad. As this was possible only with my employer, she was unemployed in the meanwhile for 6 months. Then she got a PhD at a university, and this is where problems started. Let's jump back a bit. Throughout our relationship she was through a lot. A lot. She almost failed university twice. She was kicked out of the dorm. Her mother turned out to be a narcissist who was emotionally completely unavailable. Her job didn't value her. She was doing a work of a higher position for years, before she actually got promoted. One of her best friends and colleague had a miscarriage and went crazy, and she started shouting at meetings to my STBXW. We had a very bad landlord. She picked up a lot of weight, 60 kilograms, 100 kilogram. For half a year while she was unemployed, she only got rejections, almost no interviews even. And I was there with her all the time. I was supporting her in all of them. I pushed her when she was suffering, and had no power to do anything. When she was having the abusive colleague, I supported her in going to HR, going to her boss, making recordings as evidence. Her mother? I supported her in going to contact for years, until she made the decision, collapsed into me, and I reassured her she is not a bad daughter, because she had no mother. She was an anxious mess for 7 years, but I still loved her and supported her. Almost all the way. Around year 6 things started going downhill. At this point I couldn't handle the situation anymore and resentment built up in me. I kept giving, and felt that I got back almost nothing. I asked her to pay more attention to her body, to eat healthier, to do any kind of sports, but she gave up all the time instantly. I could have handled that part far better. The way how I was supporting her in all her problems converted into a controlling behavior on my end. I became emotionally less available. And the worst part, she got stuck in her comfort zone during COVID. Woke up, watched TV, laptop, phone, go to sleep. This was her 24/7 cycle. But we didn't notice anything. We still felt happy, we still felt loved. Every day we told each other we love each other, we are happy. We got married and we were so happy. She had some resentment there, because I didn't help enough in the wedding, because I was organizing our new life in a foreign country with moving. Fast forward, she got the job at the university. After a month of working, she came home, told me that all her colleagues are so nice. She loves me but no longer in love with me, and she has a crush on someone. I was completely broken. The unconditional love, the no matter what, we do it together, we overcome everything. It was all gone. But I knew I wanted to make it work. We had a few tough discussions, and agreed to try to make it work. We started couples counseling, and she agreed to avoid her crush at all cost. Well, that was all her from side. I tried working on everything in counseling. She brought in my problems, I worked on them. Not taking out my part of housework? Done. At some point she complained I do too much. Not paying enough attention? Done. No longer asking what she said, remembering her stories from work, friends, etc. However, there were quite a few problems. I was a mess. After she broke me, I became an anxious mess with close to zero confidence. I tried to ask her for help, like I helped her all the years before, but she rejected me. This is something you have to solve in yourself. The fucking betrayal compared to all those previous years. I started hiding these insecure emotions, because she was just annoyed by them. And then emotionally I was withdrawn again, unconsciously, but again. I couldn't talk with her, I couldn't small talk, I couldn't share my feelings. I was trying, a lot. Later I realized why. Because we were sitting at home 24/7, in front of the TV. I can't talk while the TV is going. We talked hours, when we were younger and we were walking to work, walking home, just simply going for a walk. Unfortunately I only realized this after we started the divorce. So now back to the emotional affair. The coworker, crush she promised not to see anymore. Well, she kept meeting him. There were some things where she couldn't avoid him, but in a lot of cases it was a decision to meet him. One of her best friends is also having an emotional affair, and she was discussing with her the details. This is how I know some details. I've only ever read her messages once, after she announced divorce, because I didn't understand it. This is how I found out the following details. These are only the ones that she shared with her cheating friend and have written down. I guess they also talked a lot and she didn't share everything, so there might be much more. He equals crush, she, her equals STBXW. He kept flirting with her, and she never rejected him. E.g. told her smile is beautiful. She knows everything. She has a fascinating brain, and a lot more. And instead of being clear that she is married and is not open to such things, she was just accepting these. She was openly talking to her colleagues about our marriage problems. So openly that she told them such things that she didn't even tell me. Meanwhile, she kept making eye contact with her crush. They played music together in a group. But the worst part is, he was making her such comments like, if it's uncomfortable at the university, they can return to his place and continue there. She was playing on the instrument she got for our marriage anniversary. The fucking betrayal again. She kept telling her friend how much he turns her on. She went to a completely optional lecture that he was holding about blockchain, completely irrelevant about her studies, and she was praising to her friend how smart and amazing he is. He almost went away to another country for research and she was devastated she wouldn't see him again, afraid that she is missing out. She was exchanging messages with him, but in extremely secretive way. Not even a fake name, or hidden app or anything. She is messaging him only on his number, without a name saved. I only found out from a screenshot she sent her friend. All these after she told me that she will avoid him. She told me that he left the university, that they never meet. She kept all of these as a complete secret. So here I am, broken, about to sign divorce papers soon. And I'm thinking, was this an emotional affair? I know I had my fair share in our divorce, but in the past year I was doing everything I could to save us. My intentions have always been for us, for the two of us together, even if they became toxic at one point. I take responsibility for my part. I was working on it with all my power, with all the help I could get, but this is just crushing.
And here's the third story. My cheating story and the manipulation.
So I'd like to share my story even though it's older. Till this day I don't even know if she truly cheated. It was the mother of my kids. We had just bought a house. She had just got promoted to a salary job in an assisted living facility. All was good. She told me she met a guy named Ramon and he worked in the kitchen, was cool but had issues with his kid's mother. Thing with me is I remember every detail my girlfriend tells me, just in case I need it later. So I made a mental note of that name. Down the road she started changing, less sex, less affection, on the phone texting more, had to poop and would be in the bathroom for 20 to 25 minutes when she used to never do that. Paying more attention to how she looked going to work. One night she went to a friend's to hang out. I heard her pull into the driveway but her car was still running. I looked out the window and noticed she was smiling and looked like either she was on FaceTime or had her phone on speaker. I thought nothing of it, maybe a innocent chat with a friend. Then it went to 5 minutes, to 10, 15 maybe 20. She comes inside. Instantly I asked who was she talking to. A friend from work, and wanted to show me the phone number. I didn't want to see it. Could have been true but I refused to look at her phone. Then she started being mean to me. Looked checked out. Responsibilities with the kids fell more on me and less on her. One day she told me she may have to go by her job at 10 p.m. because they've been getting complaints the overnight staff isn't wearing uniforms, so they were asking her to pop up and make sure they were or send them home. Weird to me because 1. Why is there not an overnight manager for that? You mean to tell me that nobody supervises employees overnight? 2. She's very lazy. Any other place or thing to do at that time, she's not going no matter what. 3. She goes in a t-shirt and sweats and said since it's a pop-up, she wanted to be casual. She knew I thought it was sketchy even though I said nothing because she was doing all she can to not make me think it was. She was texting me every 10 minutes updating me on it. She said she was gonna help someone with paperwork then come back home. Once she told me that, I didn't hear back from her for an hour till she said she was on her way home. Forgot to mention she took a shower before she left. She didn't take one when she got home, which kind of throws me off because I feel like if it was cheating related, she should shower after not before? I don't know. Anyway, fast forward past a few serious arguments and me confronting her about the cheating, which she obviously denied, deflected it onto me by saying I'm losing my mind, she's worried and I needed to get help or we were done. I genuinely believed her and looked into therapy. So one day we were going to Home Depot. We took her car. Stupidly, she would always leave her phone's Bluetooth connected to her car. So if someone calls, it shows up on her car's screen. Soon as we got in the car, someone called her and the initials were R.M., and she immediately denied the call. I said nothing but found it weird she initialed it, as usually she just puts names for everyone. Later that day, I realized I needed to find out who that was. I thought of a plan. I said, hey, I gotta run to Walmart. I'm gonna take your car because you're behind mine. She said okay. Soon as I got in the car, I went through the phone book and jotted the number to those initials in my phone. Later that night I went into the bathroom and used BIN verified for a reverse phone lookup, and it was who I expected it to be. The guy Ramon who worked in her job's kitchen. So now it's confrontation time. Instead of telling her what I know, I wanted to give her the opportunity to tell me the truth. I went into the room. I asked her, hey, who was that who called you? I saw the initials R.M. She immediately lied and said it was her supervisor Robin. So I said, okay, I'm gonna give you another opportunity to tell me the truth. She caught an attitude and said, well, if you know who it is, why are we playing this game? Just tell me. I said, because I wanted to see if you'd lie. So finally she admitted it was Ramon. I said, okay, why lie? She said, because with what we've been going through, she didn't want me to get mad, and said he called to ask a question about work. I said, okay, you could have picked it up then. She apologized. About a week later, with no improvement, I had enough. While home painting while she was working, I texted her and told her what was the deal with us. We walk around like roommates and I can't do it anymore. She told me that hurt to read, but she hit me with the dreaded I need some space. Which for me is usually universal language for I'm interested in someone and want time to feel that out. So I acted out of character and admittedly cursed her out, and I called Ramon. He denied everything, said she was a friend. I told him if I find out the opposite, I would call corporate and have him fired. He hung on me. He told her about the car because she immediately texted me asking if I called him. I said yes, and her next text was she wants me out before she gets there. I refused. Her parents showed up with my kids because she went there, cried to them, and basically put on a show that made me out to be a controlling bastard that may hurt her because of how I spoke to her when I was flipping out. Mind you, I didn't say anything out of the norm when you flip out on a girlfriend you're having issues with. Anyway, her mom immediately comes for me by saying her daughter doesn't feel safe around me and is scared to text them because of me. They weren't trying to hear anything I had to say, so I gave up talking. Awkward silence ensued till she showed up and asked to speak in the garage. It consisted of me flipping out some more for involving her parents when we're adults and could have handled it on our own. She told me I needed to leave because they weren't going to leave unless I did. After rebelling on that for an hour, I said goodbye to my kids and left. A month after I left, I asked a friend to message and add one of her coworkers and pretend they knew them and act like they were a former coworker. It actually worked, so I told her to bring up my kid's mom and see what they say about her. The girl said, oh yeah, she's cool, she's been messing around with the kitchen manager Ramon. Of course that's not surefire proof, but again just another sign toward there being something to it. So today, where we stand is weird. We co-parent very well, still flirt, sometimes have sex. I see her and my kids almost every day, so I know she isn't seeing anyone. We don't discuss that time period at all. Basically till this day I have no confirmation she cheated on me, but obviously at the very least, there was something going on. Could have been an emotional cheat, or maybe they were just interested in each other. I'll never know and don't care to know anymore. What I did learn is the healthcare field is dangerous to date, and lol, I want to make it clear she was a good girl. Had many moments she did more for me than my entire family. I just think she had a lot of personal issues and unresolved childhood/teenage trauma that lead her to be able to do stuff like that. I noticed she really enjoyed attention, and if it wasn't coming from me, she, as probably any girl really, is going to enjoy it when it comes from somewhere else. She was also very naive, tries her best to be liked, a people pleaser, and wants to fit in any clique she meets. She always told me a lot of those girls at that job were basically competing for the same guys there, even the ones who were in a relationship. I think she kind of fell into that herself. Now I don't wish for anyone to lose their home, especially when it involves my kids, but it's kind of ironic that she just signed Sunday evening to sell the house. She couldn't afford the mortgage anymore on her own and is moving in with her parents. I think when she kicked me out, she envisioned things being an entirely different way than it came to be. She ended up losing that job 3 months later as her bosses weren't satisfied with her work in that position. She found another job 2 months later but had to take a big pay cut. So much it became hard for her to afford her bills. When I say she expected something different, I think she thought her and that guy were going to become a little more serious, along with her keeping that job for a long time and being able to afford the bills. Neither one panned out. I honestly stalk that guy's Facebook from time to time. He's in a new relationship with a new girl. This is why I don't understand why women or cheaters in general make long-term decisions based off a honeymoon period. As far as I go, I haven't dated yet. I have met 3 girls since. Neither went anywhere, but although I'll always love my kid's mom, I'm happier now than I've ever been love life-wise. Just feels good to do and go anywhere I want without any issues. Anyway, I apologize for the length, just wanted to share my cheating story.